If you work in early years or you're preparing for an interview or inspection, you've probably heard the term sustained shared thinking. But for a lot of people, it's one of those phrases that sounds important without always feeling clear. What does it actually mean? What does it look like in practice? And how do you know if you're actually doing it properly? Well, in this video, I'm going to break it down in a simple, practical way so you can understand it, recognize it, and use it confidently in your setting. By the end of this video, you should feel confident explaining sustained shared thinking and recognizing what it looks like in real interactions with children. But before we get into all of that, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel Open Nursery with myself, Kurt Liania, where I support practitioners and nursery leaders with understanding the EYFS properly and improving practice in a way that actually works day to day. So if you haven't already, check out some of my other videos like what is continuous provision and the 5 different types of abuse in early years. But sustained shared thinking is one of those concepts that comes up a lot but isn't always explained clearly. So let's start with a simple definition. Sustained shared thinking is when an adult and a child are both actively involved in thinking together. It's a two-way interaction. You're not just talking to the child, and the child isn't just listening. You're both contributing ideas, you're exploring something together, and you're building on each other's thinking as the interaction develops. So instead of an adult leading everything or the child working completely independently, you're meeting in the middle. You're thinking together, and that's where the depth comes from. Because the learning isn't just coming from the adult, it's being developed through the interaction. And this is the key idea to remember. It's not about giving answers, it's about developing thinking together. Now, before we go deeper into what sustained shared thinking looks like, it's really important to understand what it isn't, because this is where a lot of people get confused. Sustained shared thinking is not giving instruction, asking quick fire questions, talking at children, or moving them on too quickly. So things like, what color is this? What number is that? Say it again. There's nothing wrong with those questions. They have their place in development, but they don't deepen thinking. They tend to lead to short answers. They check knowledge, but they don't build it further. And sometimes, without realizing, we can fall into a pattern of asking, answering, moving on, without actually staying in the moment with the child. And that's the key difference, because sustained shared thinking isn't about getting the right answer. It's about exploring ideas together. It's about slowing things down, staying in the interaction, and giving that thinking time to develop. So what does it actually look like in real life? Because this is where it really starts to make sense. Let me show you a simple comparison. An expected interaction might sound like, that's a tall tower, well done. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's positive, it's supportive, but it doesn't take the learning any further. Now compare that to sustained shared thinking. That might sound like, you've balanced that really carefully. I can see you've used the bigger blocks at the bottom. I wonder what would happen if you made the base wider. Can you see the difference? Now the adult isn't just commenting. They're extending the child's thinking. They're encouraging the child to reflect, predict, and explore. And the child might respond with, it might fall, or it might get stronger. And now you've got a back and forth interaction. You can then test those theories, and that's where the thinking develops. Another example might be in role play. Instead of saying, make the baby some food, you might say, the baby looks hungry, what do you think we should make? And then you follow the child's ideas. You're not directing the play, you're building on it. This is where sustained shared thinking really happens. When you extend ideas, when you ask open-ended questions, when you follow the child's interests, and when you show genuine curiosity. You're not rushing to the next activity, you're staying in the moment and exploring it. And this is the key idea to hold on to. You're not leading and you're not just following, you're thinking together. So if we break it down simply, what actually makes an interaction sustained shared thinking? There are a few key elements. First, there's back and forth conversation. It's not one-sided. Both the adult and the child are contributing. Secondly, there's time. It's not rushed. You're allowing the interaction to develop naturally. Third, there's curiosity. You're genuinely interested in what the child is thinking, not just trying to move them to the next step. Next, there's listening. Really listening to what the child is saying and responding to that, not just what you planned. And fifth, there's building on ideas. You're taking what the child says and extending it further. And finally, there's an emotional connection. The child feels engaged, supported, and comfortable enough to share their thinking. And when all of that comes together, that's when you get real depth in learning. And something that's really important to remember is this: those moments don't usually happen when we're rushing. They happen when we slow down, stay present, and give the interaction time to grow. So why does all of this matter? Because sustained shared thinking isn't just a nice idea. It has a real impact on children's development. It supports things like language development. Children hear and use richer vocabulary. Critical thinking. They start to explore ideas more deeply. Problem solving. They think through what might happen next. And confidence. They feel heard and valued in interaction. And this is where the quality of practice really shows. Because from an Ofsted perspective, this is exactly the kind of interaction that demonstrates depth. It shows that learning isn't just happening on the surface, it's being developed through meaningful engagement. And that's why this matters so much. This is where learning really happens. Now let's look at a few common mistakes, because this is where practice can easily slip without realizing. One of the biggest is rushing children, moving them on too quickly before they've had time to think, explore, or respond. Another is dominating the conversation, where the adult is doing most of the talking and the child has very little space to contribute. Then there's also asking too many closed questions, questions that lead to short answers rather than deeper thinking. And sometimes it's not fully listening, hearing what the child says but not really building on it. Another big one is interrupting thinking, jumping in too quickly instead of allowing that pause, that moment where the child is processing. And this is something that happens quite often without people realizing. Sometimes we're so focused on teaching, we forget to think alongside the child. And that's a shift this concept is really about. So if you ever need to explain sustained shared thinking simply, whether that's in an interview, in practice, or during an inspection, you can try this. It's when an adult and a child think together, sharing ideas and building on each other's thinking. That's it. Keep it simple, because confidence doesn't come from complicated explanations. It comes from understanding something clearly. So if you want to strengthen your interactions in early years, I'd really recommend watching my video on high quality interactions next, because that's where the concept really comes to life in day-to-day practice. And if you found this helpful, feel free to share it with your team, because this is one of those areas that can make a big difference when everyone understands it properly. And if you want more simple practical breakdowns of EYFS concepts like this, make sure you subscribe. But wherever you go to next, good luck and God bless.